Thanks everybody for coming to the April Social Filmmakers Meetup. Tonight's guest is Chris Esper. He's going to talk a bit about himself and his past and his background, and then his adventure in LA. So
Yes.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. First of all, it's great to be back in Massachusetts. I was in LA for 3 months. But before I really get into that, I'll kind of give you a brief bio about myself. Well, to start, I grew up in New Jersey. I was born and raised in New Jersey, born and raised there for 14 years. And during my time there, I loved film pretty much ever since I was a little boy. I think when I was around 5 years old, I want to say, I really started to develop a passion for film. And right across the street from where I lived in Jersey, there was a video store. Remember those? And they had VHS tapes. You remember those too? Yeah, the dark ages. But anyway, it was right across the street, and I used to just walk across the street as a young kid and just rent all these movies, movie after movie after movie, and just filling my mind with all this information I was getting. And I became so entranced by it and so immersed by everything I was seeing that I knew this is what I wanted to do in my life. It wasn't film initially I was interested in, though. I was interested in acting, actually. One of my favorite actors of all time, back then and still today, was Robin Williams. I had seen Mrs. Doubtfire, I saw Aladdin, and I saw Jumanji all in a row. I had no idea it was the same actor. I just knew this guy looks familiar. I have no idea who he is, but I like this guy because I know who he is. That's essentially how I declared him to be my favorite actor. But in any case, I wanted to be an actor in comic like him. When I was a young boy, I would go to family parties. I would tell jokes. When I was in school, I would try to make the older kids laugh in the upper grades. And I would tell his jokes, Rob Williams' jokes, out of context. No one knew what the hell I was talking about. And so the jokes made no sense, but yet people laughed, but yet at the same time they thought it was crazy and strange. But I just had such a blast doing this, and I just loved that reaction, that instant reaction of laughter. I loved it. I thrived for it. And so it was just such a fun time. And when I was around, I want to say 9 or 10 years old, is when I really started to get into acting. I took an acting class. It was an improv class. So that was a blast to learn. And then by age 10, I had seen the movie Ghostbusters, and for the first time, fell in love with it, and decided I wanted to write a sci-fi comedy in that vein. When I discovered that Dan Aykroyd and Howard Ramis had written the script for Ghostbusters in addition to acting, when I saw that, I said, I could do that. So at 10 years old, by the way, before I get into that, I also loved robots as a young boy. Getting back to Robin Williams, I had seen Bicentennial Man, where he plays a robotic character. I fell in love with that movie, and I fell in love with Ghostbusters. So I just had this love for science fiction. And so when I was 10, I wrote a script called Boybot. It was a 30-page script of this little boy that builds a robot, and he has to fight aliens or something like that. I still have it in my bedroom somewhere, and I read it about a year or two ago. My God, I was just shaking my head in disbelief at the cringeworthy writing that I produced at age 10. But you know what? It got my imagination going, so much so that because Columbia Pictures had produced Ghostbusters, I did the gutsiest thing a 10-year-old could ever do. I told the story ad nauseum, so bear with me if you heard this so many times already. I took my screenplay and I sent it to Columbia Pictures, and I read some producer's name off the credits of Ghostbusters, and I just wrote his name, Columbia Pictures, Hollywood, California, sent it off to him, and then I think about, I don't know how long it was, I think it was a few months or maybe a year later or something like that, I got the envelope back with return to sender stamped on it. And it didn't crush me at all. Like, if anything, it just made me want to keep writing and keep going. And so this is around age 10. And then when I reached my teens is when I moved to Rhode Island. And so then when I got to Rhode Island, I entered high school. And then high school, I started doing, I got more back into acting and doing comedy, and so I took drama club for 4 years throughout high school, and I was very interested in that and I loved acting. And then I even tried my hand at stand-up comedy when I was in my teens. I went to a few comedy clubs, did a few shows, and surprisingly got a few laughs. So that was really refreshing. But then when I really started to examine myself when I was finishing high school, I think around junior year, I was trying to think, what is it that I really want to do in my life? Is it comedy and acting really what I want to do in my life? because I was going through a phase where I wasn't sure if that was really what I loved. I liked it, but it was starting to become a little tiring after a while. And then I started, but all the while throughout these past years since age 10, I started watching more movies and more movies, and I saw movies now more as an art form. And I started watching movies by Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, just all these great directors, Stanley Kubrick, Alfred Hitchcock, and the list goes on. And so I discovered that's what I really love. I love filmmaking. That solidified in my head when I first saw Raging Bull, and I watched Scorsese's director's commentary. When I saw that and I saw the techniques he put into making that film, and why and what he felt about the character, what at a personal level he related to the character, and from that point on, I knew I wanted to be a director. So I kind of put acting aside, I put comedy aside in favor of that, because I thought to myself, well, if I do directing, I could take my love for acting, comedy, performance art. I also did a little bit of puppetry. That's another story. I take my love for puppetry, animation, and combine it into this one medium. And while I may not be doing all those things, by being a director, it's like I am doing those things, except someone else is in front of the camera interpreting that performance I imagine in my head. So that's why I chose directing to go into that. And so I got my first camera when I was 17, and this was just like a little rinky-dink record to DVD kind of camera, one of those $300 things. And so got my first camera, and this is when YouTube came around. I think it's around 2006, I want to say. And so YouTube came around, and I decided I'm going to make movies. And so I had no actors. I had friends, but they certainly didn't want to be actors in my stuff. So I just said, screw it, I'll be my actor. So I did it all. If you read the credits on all my films from high school, it was Chris Esper was the actor, writer, director, producer, cinematographer, editor. It looked like one of those narcissistic filmmakers, which wasn't what I was trying to be, but it was all I had to my disposal. I was using Windows Movie Maker as my editing software. It was very, very frugal, if you will. I'm still frugal, but it was even more. I'll give you an example of this. There was this one film I made where it was like a silent movie, because I love Charlie Chaplin as well, became a huge fan of his work. And so I did this one film about this guy who is trying to get into his house because he lost his keys. And so I'm dressed up as this old 1920s character on my porch in front of my house. I have the camera set up over there, and this is basically my method of filmmaking back then. I would hit record on the camera. First I would set the shot, hit record, go in front of the camera, do the action, go back, do it again. It was like I was my own invisible director, and so I would get all these different angles and do it again, again, again. And when I'm doing this silent film, I'm going like this with my body to break down the door to give it that really cartoony kind of old silent movie feel. So I'm doing this, the neighbors are passing by, they're looking at me like I'm crazy, and then finally I get the door open, and my mother's inside going, "Chris, what are you doing?" And then it was just no one knew why I was doing this, what the purpose was. I put the film together, I show my parents and my friends the final product, and they go, "Oh, that's what you were doing, okay." And so I had friends and family that were starting to say, you could do this as a career. You got talent in this. So I'm like, and that gave me the confidence to kind of move forward with this. And so I made movies like that for a few years. I got kind of a following on YouTube, which wasn't really intentional, but that was kind of cool, I guess. And so then I graduated Lincoln High School in 2009, and then the same year I started college at New England Tech, where I studied film and video production. This is where I kind of became where I am now. Throughout college, I didn't just want to learn in school. I wanted to go outside school and learn some more. That's when I met some of the people in this audience from working on film sets while I was in school. I started out as a camera assistant on an independent feature that one of my best friends directed. And then from there, I was interning at Hasbro Toys and their production company. Working as an intern, worked on a few commercials and such. So that was a really fun time. And then all the while, I was working on all these films as a production assistant, camera assistant. I was editing films, just really getting my foot out there, really getting my foot in the door in the New England scene of filmmaking. And then I started making my own projects while I was in school. So then I started doing that, and again, I met some of the people that are in this audience by doing so. And so So that was great, and I got to meet a lot of people, and then finally graduated in 2012. And then in 2012, I made a film just when I got out of college called Still Life, and it was probably, this is a film that was probably my most personal story. It was like my first, I guess you could say, professional film out of school, if you want to get technical about it. But it's a story about a photography student who struggles with his thoughts about his creativity and talent. He questions himself about his work, if he's good enough, and stuff like that. These are things that I went through and that every artist goes through as they're growing as an artist, and also the ability to accept criticism, which is something that I was still learning how to do. So I wanted to express these feelings on film. And so I made this film in 2012. It has since played at 7 film festivals and won a few awards. So I'm very proud of everyone involved. And we had a premiere in 2012. That was a tremendous night, probably the greatest night of my life. I still get teary-eyed sometimes when I think about when the film ended and everyone stood up and just started clapping. It was a very rewarding experience. And so for those who are curious, here is the trailer for the film. And so the film is actually now available through VHX. I'll talk more about it after you see this. And so that was the trailer for the film. And like I said, it played at 7 film festivals. It won a couple of awards. So it taught me a lot. I'm very proud to say that I know a lot now than what I did then to grow as a director. So the film now is even more relevant for me because in my eyes, just like the character, we all go through that growing process as an artist where we get better and get better and get better and get better until eventually, well, you're not really satisfied with yourself, but you have more confidence in yourself. And this film got me a great deal of confidence in my abilities as a director. And certainly it's helped me grow, and it made a lot of, it had a great cast and crew. I was very proud of everyone involved. So it was, that was great. And then after Still Life, I started doing some more projects, including a web show called The Guy Going Crazy, which was written by my good friend Rich Camp, and he also stars in the show. So play the trailer here.
That's me, Felix.
I can't help you unless you make something that's high energy, internet viral stuff, you know? If you can make it happen by September, I can get you on board.
That's like 4 weeks away. Now, I'm screwed. All I've ever wanted to do was make stupid movies with you guys.
Chow Dog!
I got the idea for the web show.
Time-traveling homeless people.
And then I had my family. I'm telling you, Mom, your computer works fine.
It still doesn't work.
In society.
Quickly.
You're gonna let this guy you almost killed go to the hospital by himself? What a loser.
And my girlfriend.
You're following a dream. Maybe an income would be nice.
Yeah, so that was Guy Going Crazy, and that show too has done pretty well. Got some good reviews, and it just recently played at LA Web Fest, along with another web show I was part of called In the Bedroom, which I'm sure many folks here have seen the show, know of it. Yeah. Seth Chitwood had produced it, and I co-produced and directed 2 episodes. So I did projects like that. I also did the Project Greenlight contest, which is, for those who don't know, Project Greenlight is a competition that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon host, where you are given the chance to make a 3-minute film, and if that 3-minute film makes it to the top 200, and then makes it to the top 20, then top 10, and eventually winner, you get the opportunity to create a Hollywood feature film. The winner gets to go to Hollywood and make a feature film, And so my good friend Don Tempesta, a Boston actor, very talented guy, wrote this very poignant script about a man who is attempting suicide until a phone call makes him think twice about it. And so we did that film, and we didn't make it to the top 200, unfortunately, but the film, again, did pretty well outside of all that. I submitted to a bunch of festivals. It got into, I think, 6 so far and won a few awards. So that was very gratifying, too. And what made it all the more poignant was the fact that when we finished the film is when Robin Williams had passed away. And so it was kind of eerie when we finished it, because we finished it, I think, like the day before that happened. And so it made the film strangely all the more relevant in a weird way. So I did projects like that. And then this is when I started to, this is where the Moving Picture Institute comes into play. Moving Picture Institute is a nonprofit organization that promotes freedom through film. They take like-minded, freedom-oriented filmmakers and get their visions onto film. So it deals a lot with about liberty, about freedom and liberty. So that's what they're trying to promote. And so the Movie Picture Institute had this seminar going on called Movie Picture Institute and FEE, Economics and Filmmaking in Los Angeles. This was back in April 2014. And Movie Picture Institute actually helped in funding A Guy Going Crazy. My good friend Rich, who wrote the script again, did an internship with MPI, and then they got to know him, and then so they helped in funding the show after we raised money on Indiegogo. And so he encouraged me to apply for this seminar that they were holding about economics and filmmaking. So I applied. Luckily, I was accepted into this program, and then I went to Los Angeles for this seminar, and then I met all these great people. These are folks from the seminar, people from MPI and from FEE, and I learned a great deal about how economics affects filmmaking. So it taught me a lot. We all learned about how the union works, the basics of script writing, how to do crowdfunding, just so much great information. And they do the seminar once a year, so if anyone out there is interested in attending this seminar, please look into it. You'll learn a lot, especially if you're into filmmaking and if you have a belief in liberty even. It was such a gratifying experience, and I came out of there just feeling like I learned a lot, like I grew a lot, and I really wanted to come back to LA. So then I applied for MPI's Hollywood Career Launch Program later that year. And what the Hollywood Career Launch Program is, it is a program where interns are picked by MPI, and they are placed in either New York or Los Angeles, where it's the intern's choice. And so I decided, and so I was lucky enough to be accepted into this program. And so I should also mention it's also a paid internship, which also helps a lot. So they basically pay the intern to go to this company of their choice, and they get paid to work pretty much. And so I decided I'm going to go to LA. I want to do this. So I ended up choosing Allah Entertainment, and luckily they accepted me. Allah Entertainment, they're located in Culver City, California, and they produced Drive with Ryan Gosling, way back, which played at Sundance a few years ago. They also produced, most recently, Mordecai with Johnny Depp, Rosewater, which Jon Stewart had directed. So a lot of great movies. Also Draft Day with Kevin Costner, or was it Kevin Spacey? Now I can't remember. But one of the two Kevins. So they produced those movies, and so I was very lucky to get this opportunity. And my job at Allah was to do script coverage primarily. And what script coverage is when every week I was given a script, I would read the screenplay, and then I would write a synopsis as to what the screenplay was about, and then I would write my comments on it, what I thought of it, what could be better. And so my job was to say yay or nay to these scripts. And so essentially I would write in my comments what I thought of it. I almost thought of it like doing like a movie review, because from time to time I do movie reviews for my friend's blog. So I kind of try to approach it like that. There's actually much more to it than that. But in the end, I would have to say about the writer of the project, would I recommend it, consider it, or pass on it? And so it was a great learning lesson because one of the things I noticed when I first started reading scripts is I was afraid to tell people if I didn't like something. And this was something that my employers at Odd Lot would have to get all us interns out of that mindset, was to say, the basic mindset of one of the biggest lessons I learned when you're in Hollywood or LA or the movie industry as a whole, you want to be bluntly honest about what it is that you're reading. If you have to think of it this way, would you pay a ticket to see this film, or would you just watch it on Netflix, or would you just go to the Redbox, or would you just pass on it completely? You can't just say, I liked this part, but I didn't like this part. This could work if this was like this. No. You have to be 100% confident. The story editor at the company, she gave me a good example. She sat me down one day and she said, Chris, you have to look at it as though, is this writer going to win an Oscar? Is this Oscar material? Is this award-winning material? Then she would ask me, who's your favorite writer? I would say Charlie Kaufman. And she would say, okay, is this writer Charlie Kaufman to you? Would you pay money to see this movie? And so I now read scripts in a whole different mindset, and it taught me so much about not only reading scripts, but also storytelling, because I don't write very often, but when I do, it's a good reference to kind of go back to and remember what works in a script and what exactly doesn't. And I got to be honest, a lot of times I turned down scripts when I read them. There was very few I actually could say confidently, consider this project, or I recommend this project, fund this has to go into the cinemas, you know. I'm not saying that my job was to tell the executives what to do, but essentially I would help them, I guess, guide them, so to speak. That's what I kind of got out of it. I could be totally wrong on that. But among my other jobs was also doing administrative tasks. Like I would just make coffee, and I would take lunch orders day by day, and just make sure the day runs smoothly for the executives, and just do the job. I was answer phones. So to some, that might seem kind of like menial tasks, but it's not, because they depend on us interns to really get the day going, because they don't have the time to do it themselves all the time. And so one of the biggest things I learned was to just don't complain and just stand out as much as you can. I would show up. I wasn't told to report until 9 a.m. in the morning. I showed up at 8 a.m. in the morning because I really just wanted to show them I was serious, and I wanted this more than anything in the world. I had no idea if they were going to give me a job or not. They weren't hiring for interns, so that unfortunately didn't happen. But I still wanted to show them that I was serious regardless, and that, you know, and to just show that this is what I want. This is what I want to do in my life, and if this is what I have to do to get there, then I'm going to do it. And so I would show up every morning at like 8:15 or so, and then make the coffee, and then the other interns would come in and say, "Oh, is everything done?" I'm like, "Yeah." So that was kind of funny. But and then outside the internship, I decided, well, I'm here for 3 months. I'm not just going to work at my internship. I have to do other things to network and meet people. So I tried to get any opportunities I could get, including working at Nickelodeon for a day. I got to. It wasn't related to film in any way, shape, or form. I was just simply doing catering for a day, but it was just some extra money to make, and plus I got to be on the Nickelodeon lot, so it was, it couldn't be better than that, you know. So, and it was thanks to a friend of mine who was also out there, and he encouraged me. He said to me, you know, how would you like to make, you know, $120? I said, yeah, absolutely. So I went to Nickelodeon, and it was great. It was wonderful. I mean, there were no like famous people there or anything like that, but I mean, it was just great to be on the lot and to see people, see the studio, see like pictures of your favorite cartoons when you were a kid hanging on the walls. I mean, it was amazing. And then aside from that too, I also went to this book signing that the director of Dear White People was at. Dear White People is an independent film that played at Sundance, and I asked him a question. I asked him, what advice would you give to young filmmakers? And so he answered my question, which I happen to have, oh no, I'm sorry. Before that, before I get into that actually, probably the highlight of my trip was meeting one of my favorite directors. And this was no accident either. I actually emailed him out of the blue. This director is Kenneth Johnson. He directed The $6 Million Man, The Bionic Woman, The Incredible Hulk TV series, V, the original V miniseries from '83, Alien Nation, and he did Short Circuit 2, among other great movies and shows. And I happened to enjoy his work, so I emailed him. I found his website. I emailed him. I said, Mr. Johnson, I'm in LA now. I really admire your work. is there any way that I can meet and greet with you and maybe pick your brain a little bit? And he said, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, come to my office. And so I went to his office in Sherman Oaks, California, and I walked in, I felt like a little kid in a candy store. These were the things I saw there. Swedish poster for Short Circuit 2, that was really incredible. The Incredible Hulk wig that Lou Ferrigno had worn in the TV series. The little mini number 5 robot that's the robot from Short Circuit. It's not a prop from the movie, but regardless, that was really neat to see. Some great photographs he had on his wall of behind the scenes and shows that he's done through the years. A bunch of memorabilia, and then he was a very kind person. I talked to him for about an hour, and it turns out he had actually seen my film Still Life, because I had sent it to him. Because a few years ago, I tried to contact him once, and I sent him my DVD when he encouraged me, yeah, send me your DVD, I'd like to see it. I didn't hear from him, so I didn't know what he thought of it. So then I had asked him what he thought of it. He said, you have a lot of promise, you have a lot of talent. It was a very heartfelt, emotional film, and so he really encouraged me to keep going. And the highlight of that visit was he invited me to his directing class as his guest. So I got to go to his directing class, and that's him. He was kind enough to give me a ride to my bus stop in LA, and so he was just a sweet guy, a wonderful person, and always open to listen to his fans, which I think is great. And the reason I contacted him instead of someone really high level is because I figured if I'm going to contact anybody and get some input from or some feedback from, it has to be someone that's pretty low key. And so I contacted a ton of people like him. I contacted the writer of Big Eyes that Tim Burton had directed recently. The same writer also wrote Ed Wood with Johnny Depp. He also had written Problem Child 1 and 2, Man on the Moon, just so many great movies. And he actually got back to me too. And I didn't get the chance to actually see him in person, but from time to time, I'll still send him a message and I'll say, when I still would like to meet you, and he'll say, yeah, I'd love to meet you too. So I guess one of the biggest things I learned is don't be afraid to reach out to those that you admire, because you never know. They might want to actually give back to you and say, yeah, I want to give you a chance. I want to talk to you. I want to meet you. You could be somebody that, it could be someone that you can remind of themselves when they were younger or what have you. And so Kenneth Johnson and I, we talked about movies for about a good hour. He told me some amazing behind-the-scenes stories of working with Bill Bixby on The Incredible Hulk, working with the robot in Short Circuit 2, how it literally would break down and would run down the street by itself. It's just like incredible stories. And so I went to his directing class soon after, and his class was really amazing. He had some great behind-the-scenes material that no one has ever seen. He explained some of the tricks of the trade, some of the cheats that you do. Such as if you're on location and you can't get that one close-up, you could get it another month and then insert it into your edit and it'll look exactly the same and nobody could tell. Like just basic tricks of the trade like that. And so it was a good reminder. And then he talked about camera movement, how camera movement affects the scene, why he chose to cut where he cut to a shot. Just little simplest things like that the audience doesn't really think about, but us filmmakers, we do think about, and we have to know it in order to develop further.
I'd say perfect your craft.
And this is where I met the director of Dear White People. His name is Justin. I forgot his last name, but he directed Dear White People, which was a huge hit at Sundance Film Festival this past year, and it won the jury award, I believe it did. So I asked him during this book signing, what advice would you give to young filmmakers? And so he was kind enough to answer my question.
It's 2 parts. I'd say perfect your craft is the first part. Make sure you know what kind of story that you're telling, and make sure you're telling it as well as you can. It took me 8 years to write this film, and it wasn't an everyday process of writing, but it was a process of figuring out how to write in a lot of ways. And when I felt like the script was ready, when you get to that place after you feel like you got it as good as you can get it with wherever you're at with your life right now, don't wait for somebody else to give you permission. Because as a filmmaker, because movies cost so much, even if you make a low budget film, it costs so much money to put a film on the ground, even a short on the ground. It's very easy to get into the mindset of waiting for the financer to say yes, or waiting for people to say yes on your Kickstarter page, or waiting for the studio to say, or your manager, or whoever, waiting for other people to say yes. And for me, yes, it did involve other people saying yes, but there was a notable difference in the momentum of the project when I took responsibility for it and said, I'm not going to take no for an answer. And so if I get a no here, cool, I'll go over here. There's just a notable shift in momentum when you decide that you are responsible for getting the film made. Even though it does require collaboration and it requires people to give money and all that kind of stuff, like ultimately it really is on you because nobody's looking for you. No, people are definitely sure not looking for me. So, you know, yeah, I have to take it upon myself to make that decision anyway.
Thank you.
So,
Simeon.
I'm sorry?
Justin Simeon.
Yes, thank you, Justin Simeon. And so I love what he said there because it's so true. You know, no one's going to wait for you as an actor. No one's going to wait for you as a director. No one's going to wait for you as a producer. You just have to go out and make the project happen, no matter what it takes. And so I took a lot out of that, just that simple minute and a half that he just answered my question. So that was wonderful. And then among the other things I did outside of my internship, I also got to learn from John Truby, who is a screenwriting teacher. He wrote the 21 Jump Street series in its initial airing back in the 80s. And he was holding a screenwriting seminar in LA, and I was out there, and I was working, and then MPI actually contacted me and said, this screenwriting seminar is looking for volunteers, and volunteers get to sit in on the class for free. Would you like to do it? I said, yeah, absolutely. So I went to this class, and I didn't have to pay a dime, which was amazing. And so I went to this class, and oh my gosh, I must have taken 23 pages of notes. The guy was incredible. If you had never heard of him, I highly suggest you look him up. He has a great website. He has a great software program that for screenwriting. Great book that's out there. I've read a few screenwriting books, but there's nothing like seeing him do it in person and explaining why his story works. He would show clips from scenes and would say, okay, this moment is when the catalyst of the story happens. This moment is when the all is lost moment happens. This is where the battle of the main character is. This is their need. This is their want. This is why this character does this. This is what the character's inner monologue is thinking. He talked about subtext, about having your dialogue mean something underneath without saying it directly on the nose. And so it really inspired me to want to, kind of go and start writing my screenplay, because I like to write a feature and make a feature one of these days. And so it really got me going and, kicked my ass to say, go write that screenplay already, because like Justin said, no one's waiting for you. And so I learned a lot from that. And then one of the other things I did that was really pretty amazing was I got to work at one of the major studios for a week. I can't really get into too many details on which one or what the project was because I had signed a contract, but what had happened was one of my good friends who I met at the MPI seminar back in May, this is before I did the Allot internship, he was working at the studio as a freelancer, as an assistant editor, and he contacted me and he said to me, Chris, I could use some help with some editing work at the studio. Would you be able to come and help me? I said, yeah. So I go into the studio. Oh my gosh, it was like, and I thought sending my script out to Sony Pictures Columbia Pictures was the greatest thing in the world. This was like, it came full circle for me. I walk into the studio, and then I'm seeing all the people pass by with the lights. I'm seeing people passing by with all the big production design backdrops, and they're putting things together. I'm seeing the big sound stages. I'm like, I can't believe I'm here. This is incredible. And so I go into the bungalow where we were working, and I helped him out with some editing for the week, and it was pretty amazing. It was really, really incredible. Now, despite all that. And so in addition to that, there's more good news out of this. I also, there was a local film festival that was happening in Culver City where I was staying, and it turned out that there was a Culver City Film Festival, and so I submitted two of my films, Always a Reason, which is the one that I did for Project Greenlight, and another short film I did called Steak Knives, and both were accepted into the festival, and they played in California. It was the first California screening I ever had. And so I went to this festival, and that was a great time. I mean, it was a small festival, but a festival's a festival, you know. And we ended up, Steak Knives ended up walking away with Best Comedy Short at the festival. So I was very pleased about that, and so that was pretty incredible. But despite all this, despite all those good things, it wasn't always. Despite all those good things, it wasn't always easy. You know, there was always hardships, and I gotta tell you, the reality is it's harsh out there in Los Angeles. I had a great time, but the hardest part was leaving my family for 3 months, so I did get homesick quite a bit. That was probably the hardest part. But the hardest part was finding work, because my goal initially was to hopefully stay out there and then or do something out there to help me get some work and really build up my career. But the reality of LA is that it's about who you know. So you kind of have to network your way in, unfortunately, where you can know someone, but you have to know someone who probably knows someone, who probably knows someone else, and probably knows somebody else to get in there. That's how I was able to get into Universal, because, did I just give away the name of the studio? My goodness, but it's... You can edit that. But it's okay, no, but that's how I was able to get onto the studio, because my friend told me, my friend knew someone, his boss, who could help me get on. So I knew him, and he was able to talk to his boss and get me on there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to have been on there. No way. It's impossible. You essentially have to, you gotta network your way in. You gotta meet the people who know the people. And then it also helps if you have a friend who's already there, who already knows people that they can introduce you to. So that's kind of what I did. I kind of worked my way into the system by doing that, through friends who are already out there. And I tell you, anytime you go to LA, no matter where you go, someone is making movies. There's always somebody. I went to a restaurant one time with a friend. Next table is a famous cinematographer, and then I start talking to him. I give him my business card, and he told me he liked to keep in touch with me because he loved my energy. I mean, he hasn't gotten in touch with me just yet, but I mean, that's all it takes is just hustle. You just gotta hustle, because if you don't do that, no one's gonna be looking for you. Find as many projects as you can, and you will go through periods of self-loathing, self-hate, where you're like, why am I doing this? I should be doing something else for a career. I always ask myself all the time, why am I doing filmmaking? I mean, why am I doing this to myself? I'm killing myself over here. Like I'm working all hard, and I'm not getting the opportunity, and I can't find a job, But I wouldn't trade this for anything else in the world, because I can't imagine myself doing anything else. This is all I know, and this is what I like to continue knowing, and so that unfortunately is the harsh reality of it, is that you're not always gonna get the opportunities that you want because you don't know somebody who might know somebody else, and you might not have all the money in the world, and the business itself could be a little political, and you might go through that hardship of self-hate and also homesick. But eventually, in the end, it's worth it when you strike that gold at one point, and then that gold keeps growing and growing and growing. When you find someone that knows somebody, then they introduce you to somebody else, and it keeps building up that way. It's much different than over here, where someone just says, "Well, I know this guy. He could do sound pretty well. Do you want to use him?" And then, you kind of build a network that way. But in LA, it's much different. It's about who you know. You can have the best resume in the world, and it doesn't matter. I thought my resume was pretty filled. I had trouble getting onto just one page, so I thought, oh wow, I mean, I have a pretty good resume. I could do this. But no, no matter how many awards you win, how many festivals you get into, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just have to. The key is networking. And so those were some of the lessons I learned from doing that, from being in LA. So now I'm back here in Massachusetts, and currently I actually work for MPI. I got a job as a production assistant, so now I work in New York City from time to time. And so I go back and forth, and they're doing this new project right now, so they have me on board as a production assistant. And so it's a good way to start. They've been this company has been very, very supportive of me, and they really want to see me stride, and just really, they want to help me in a big way. So I'm very glad about that. and I've also been freelancing. I shoot weddings, I do videography, and I still make movies. My latest film is almost done right now. It's called Please Punish Me. It's a dark comedy about a man who is overly blessed, and so so all the good things that happen to him reflect negatively on those around him, and so he seeks to be punished for his curse, so to speak. So right now the film is just about finished editing, and here's the trailer real quick if you haven't seen it yet.
Found that on the crockboard in Panera. Looking to get that on? I don't legitimately want to get on. Scotty! The meeting started. You will likely be the youngest partner this company ever sees. Immediate appointment, I presume?
Take off your pants and bend over the table! Are you a legal consenting adult?
Yes. I don't think I want to mess with people like this.
Should be an easy appointment for you both.
So that's coming soon. I'm looking at spring to release it this spring, and as far as the best advice I could give for anyone who is looking to do this, I would say you have to read this book. It's called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. The reason I recommend this is because it is one of the most inspiring books you'll ever read. It's a very short read too. It's only like 110 pages, but in that 110 pages, the author just really kicks your butt to go and start doing creative work. And this relates to what Please Punish Me is about, because the film essentially is about this guy who, underneath all the comedy, is a story about this guy who just wants to do what he loves and succeed on a path that he likes. And that's why I chose to do the film, because I'm at the point in my life too where I'm like Scotty, in that I want to succeed down the path of filmmaking. I don't want to succeed down the path of being a wedding videographer. I do it because I do enjoy it, but it also helps me make a little bit of income. And so, because I think too many people wake up in the morning and they don't like what they do, which is really sad and unfortunate. So I really wanted to kind of tell that story. And The War of Art certainly helps in really just kicking you to just don't make excuses anymore. Just, use that creativity you have within you and go. Just do it. And I highly recommend it. It was recommended to me actually by the at the MPI seminar, and so I try to read it from time to time to really remind myself why I do this and why I shouldn't give up in filmmaking. So that's really about it. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, thank you.
No questions?
What kind of camera do you usually shoot with for film?
What kind of camera I usually shoot with?
Yeah.
Well, I use DSLR cameras. That is the Canon T2i, the Canon 60D, which was what we used for two of my films that I played. Guy Going Crazy was shot with a Blackmagic cinema camera. Yeah, and then I just recently I also have a Blackmagic Pocket, which I just purchased. I just have, and what's that?
Ka-ching.
Yeah, ka-ching is right. So I own all my equipment, and I try to do everything as independently as possible, where instead of renting equipment, either my friends have it or I have it. It just makes things a lot easier. Any other questions? About LA or about anything?
What was your favorite part about LA?
My favorite part about LA, going to the theater. I got to go to the Directors Guild Theater when I was out there, thanks to a friend who is part of the union, and so he was able to get me in as a guest. And it was what a gorgeous theater. It was absolutely gorgeous. Big red curtains. I got to see Wild there with Reese Witherspoon, which is lovely movie. And I saw Fury there with with was it Brad Pitt or yeah, Brad Pitt, and I saw the Glenn Campbell documentary I'll Be Me, which was also another wonderful movie. So I liked that a lot. Also the food, the food is very good in LA. I was surprised at myself because so much food out there. I didn't gain any weight. I lost weight, which was surprising. I went down like 40 pounds. I was like, oh my god, like how did this happen? So yeah, so those two things about LA were amazing.
In your new position, are you directing or what?
For MPI?
Yeah.
No, not this time. I'm a production assistant. But they do want to give me full-time work. They want to bring me on full-time as a full-time staff member, and hopefully I'll move to New York. Who knows? And I wouldn't mind being in New York. New York is a great place to start. There's a lot happening over there. LA is great too, but I mean, New York still has a lot going on. And what I like about the job too is it still gives me the flexibility to do what I love and to still make my own projects and do my own personal projects. And you know, they're always there for me. They always tell me, you know, we want to help you, we want to help your career. So I'm very thankful to have them, to have met them, thanks to my friend Rich. Otherwise, I wouldn't have met them at all. And so, yeah, they've been very good to me.
So they encourage you to do your
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah. They totally encourage me. They told me, I tried to apply for a position with them in the marketing department because I figured, well, it's full time and it's for MPI. You know, maybe we'll see what happens. They didn't hire me for that, not because I wasn't good enough for the position, but this is what I was told. They said to me, this is not for you. They said to me, you're too good for this. You know, we don't want to take away from your talent. We don't want to take away from your creativity. We want you to strive as a filmmaker. We feel by doing this position, this would take away from that. So, you know, keep in touch with us. We'll try to find something for you. So they've been very good to me. They got me a job interview when I was in LA. So, yeah, they're really helping me out, and they can help out any filmmaker too. If there's a filmmaker out there that really wants to be part of this opportunity, I highly recommend it because you'll learn so much, you'll grow so much as a person, as a director, filmmaker, what have you. Because again, I didn't just grow as a filmmaker through my trip and through my journey. I grew as a person. I became more independent, I feel. It was the first time I was away from my family. I didn't have that support system directly in front of me. I had to figure things out for myself, and so it really helped me out and it helped me become more resourceful as a person, which in turn helped me become more resourceful also as a filmmaker and find quick solutions to major problems that need to be fixed immediately. Like for example, there was a day when my phone battery was dead and I couldn't call a cab to take me to work, and so I'm hailing down people who are passing by in my corner where I was staying. Somebody stopped and said, you okay? I said, I need a ride to work. I can't call a cab. My phone is dead. I can't get a bus. I don't have any change on me. I work 10 minutes away. Can you please just take me to work? I'll give you gas money. And thankfully this person said yes, and I didn't get killed. So, and it turns out I got to work 15 minutes early. I don't know how that happened, but again, finding quick solutions to major problems and trying to be resourceful as much as you can. And just thinking quickly on your feet when you don't have someone there to help you.
How about finding places to live? I mean, how is that? Did they help you out with that?
That was interesting too because it's not easy. My first 3 days over there, I was staying at a hotel. I was staying at the extended stay hotel, and I couldn't stay there because that would have blew my entire paycheck from the. Even more than that, actually. So I went to roommates.com, and what I had done was I had found this little apartment that was right in Culver City, 10 minutes away from work. So I thought, oh, this is great. So I went to the apartment, took a look at it. The people interviewed me, and I interviewed them. That's another important thing. Any kind of job interview you go on, make sure you always interview the employer or the person that you're speaking with, and not just let them interview you, because you have to feel comfortable too. So. And I felt comfortable with this person, so this person even cut me a deal on the rent because I knew how much I had. I was only getting paid $1,000 a month, and the rent was $1,000 a month. So I said to him, you know, I want this apartment because it's really convenient for me, but I can't afford it. Is there any way that we could work something out, perhaps? So he cut me a deal where I would pay $800 a month for 1 month, $400 the next month, and $800 the next month. And then he tried to work with me as much as he could. And so that was very kind of him. He said to me, you know what? He said to me, you know what? I was in your position once too, and I want to try to help people out who were once like me, because I wouldn't have got where I am if someone else didn't help me in return. So that was very kind of him. And so I stayed at this apartment and would just take a bus or a cab to work. And be careful on the cabs too. They add up very quickly. I mean, Uber is great, Lyft is great, but there's only so much you can do with that. I learned that the hard way. I was like, oh boy, this is costing me too much. So, any other questions?
What did you find to be I mean, obviously it's an extremely different industry out there. We were just talking about that before we started speaking.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the differences that like just screamed out at you in terms of Boston versus LA? And what do you think the better differences, like the pros and cons?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. The people are certainly different, regardless if they're in the film industry or not. The people in LA, it's like going to another planet. People are so laid back and so chilled out compared to the East Coast, where I don't want to say people are uptight in the East Coast, but people certainly have a different attitude towards things. If you go to the grocery store, no one's rushing you to hurry up, and that sort of thing. But yeah, so the people are certainly different. And I would also say in terms of film industry, everyone there, from the people I met anyway, everyone is serious about what they do. Because I've met too many people in the East Coast. I'm not gonna say who, but I run into people on the East Coast who say they're gonna do something, they never do it, or they say they're gonna get this project off the ground, they don't do it, or something. Like, they're not ambitious about it. Everyone in LA seemed to be so ambitious, and nothing stopped them. I would see people going on the street corner just guerrilla styling filmmaking somewhere, and it didn't matter to them. They just made it happen, and someone's always working on something. Someone's always making a project. That's one of the biggest differences. You don't have to wait for somebody all the time. There's always a job posting for a grip, for a production assistant, or a cinematographer, director, list goes on. And so, yeah, that's one of the major differences, is that there's always work going on. The downside, I would say, is that I guess it's a little less intimate, I want to say, because the East Coast folks in the New England film community, we're all like a family, I think, because because we're so small, we run into each other all the time. We give each other a hug, we say hello, and we get involved in each other, not just from a professional standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint. We go out for coffee together, we go out to dinner, we hang out together. I'm sure you see that too in LA, but when I was there, I saw mostly a very business-oriented look at things, which is not a bad thing, of course. You have to be serious about what you do, so it's totally understandable. But yeah, so I guess that's one of the major differences, that you don't get that same emotional connection, because at that point it's serious business. It's no longer a hobby in Los Angeles. This is a business. This is what you want to do. Then you have to do it, and you can't mess around. You can't BS. You can't
show up an hour late.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. No. The biggest thing I learned out there was professionalism.
Yeah.
And more importantly, being yourself. I know too many people who either change or they feel they have to be a certain type of person in order to fit in LA. But all people expect you to do is just be an honest and trustworthy person. That's how you get far. If anything, people want to see that more than they want to see if your work is any good. If you could provide, if you could be an honest and trustworthy person and still be able to be passionate about what you do, and you show the potential and the promise, they'll give you a chance. It's I didn't find it to be all that cutthroat as many would think it is. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, because I only got on the surface of what LA is like. 3 months is nothing compared to a lifetime or something like that. But I learned a lot in just 3 months, and anyone who does an internship or just goes out and just does them themselves, they can too. Because again, it's a whole different world out there, and it's also harsh because no one is also gonna be kind, I should say, or try to sugarcoat any kind of feedback they give you. Because they want you to grow. They want you to be a better person at what you do, and sometimes that's hard to accept at first. But then you just have to realize that it benefits you. It's something I still tell myself all the time when people give me any kind of constructive criticism, because it could be hard to take. It really can be hard to take sometimes, but then in the end, you just gotta realize, it's the same goes for people who audition for films, who go to film festivals. You're bound to get more rejections than you are to get acceptances, I find. And when you balance it out, then you realize, I'm not doing so bad after all. That when you think to yourself about your successes and your failures, that's why I love when I read a biography of a famous person or an idol. I want to hear about the failures more than I want to hear about the successes, because it makes me feel better as a person, because I realize, okay, it's not just me. Even my idols went through the same thing. And that's another thing I highly recommend too, is to do that. Look for the failures, see where people struggled when they're young and growing. I remember one day when I was in LA, I was feeling really down about what I was doing. I came across a speech that Martin Scorsese had gave to NYU graduates this past year, and he told a great story about how well, he told a few great stories. One of them was how he tried to show an investor his short movies in order to get funding for a feature he wanted to make, and the investor just walked out and he started laughing. And so Scorsese went to his producer. Oh wow! Oh! He's like, oh, this is great. He liked it. He thought it was good, and went up to him and he goes, I didn't like it. And he said it, and then the producer was trying to convince him. But which one didn't you like? Did you not like this one? Did you not like the other one? Or which one? He's like, none of them. And so he said to Scorsese, kid, if I saw a thread of talent in you, I would tell you. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, even my favorite director? No, it can't be. The master? No. But it's true. I mean, even if you look at his early films, you look at Hitchcock's early films, Kubrick's first movie, they're not that good. But that's okay. That's okay. You have to start somewhere. What's that?
Like your film?
Like my film. Yeah, exactly. Even that film alone. I know it could be better. Any film could be better.
No, but the thought that you said, that you go your 2 years where you're learning and where, you just have to tolerate that.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I heard that made me feel good. Made me feel a lot better. It inspired me to keep going. And in another instance, I heard Scorsese talk about a great story when he showed the rough cut of Boxcar Bertha, one of his first movies, to John Cassavetes, the great actor. He showed the rough cut of Boxcar Bertha, and he took Scorsese into his office, and he just laughed, and then he embraced him and pulled him away, and then he said to Scorsese, "You just spent a year of your life making a piece of shit." Oh. And so, and he just said, you're better than that stuff. Don't do that again. And then he said to him, don't you have something that you really want to do? Something that you really want to do. And then it turned out to be Mean Streets, and then he made that film, and then he made film after film, and now you could say in the past 50 years he's been making movies. He's grown as a director, which is an understatement, And so I try to remember that for myself, and I try to tell that story to anyone who is also going through that. Because again, it's a tough industry. It's a very, very tough industry. It could hurt your sanity, it could hurt your ego, and it's not easy. But in the end, you just have to keep at it. I keep saying it over and over, but it's true. Is to just always remember why you do this, and don't forget who you are. I think that's the main thing, is don't forget who you are. Don't forget the passion that drove you to want to do this. Like, I don't want to forget that little kid in me that sent the script to Columbia Pictures, because that's what drove me to want to do this. And that love for film. When I watch any of my favorite movies, I think to myself, that's why I do this. When I see a certain camera move that I like, or a certain edit, or a certain cut, or a certain scene that impacted my love for cinema, I think, yeah, that's why I do this. That's exactly why I do this.
Have you been doing any more script writing since you got back?
Yeah,
It must have been like an incredible experience.
Oh, it was, yeah. Yeah, I'm starting to develop my first feature screenplay now, and so now that's underway, and been trying to. The hard part is getting myself to sit in front of the computer and not look at the blank screen over and over again, because there's only so long you can look at that blinking cursor going over and over and over and over and over again.
Blinking cursor. I was going to make a short comedy called The Blinking Cursor.
Yeah.
From my first screenwriting experience.
Yeah. So sometimes I have to kick myself to start writing from time to time, and then I keep busy with my editing gigs and my shooting gigs. I don't always have time to write, but I would like to get back into it and keep making movies. So I got Police Punishment coming out. I have a couple other shorts that I'm working on now, and so just staying busy, just doing what I love.
What about the puppets?
Oh, Puppetix. Yeah, that's another web show that I do. Yeah, Puppetix is a web show that I do because, again, I'm a huge. I learned how to do puppetry when I was in high school. I tried building my own puppets. I put on some puppet shows and I tried all sorts of things. I don't know what I was thinking, but my friend Sean, he is a puppet builder and puppeteer, and so he wrote these little scripts called Puppetix, which is basically just a group of puppet characters who try to put on a television show. But instead, they resort to the web because they can't get along with each other, and like there's a little teddy bear named Teddy who wants to take over the internet. You know, it's just it's off the wall comedy, and I'm a huge Muppet fan. I'm a huge Jim Henson fan. Grew up on that stuff. I even met Heather Henson once. That was his daughter a long time ago. Yeah, so I grew up on Disney movies, Muppet movies. So I tried to trace back to that too, because that's the little kid in me that makes me want to make movies. So. Any other questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to tell them about the meetup?
Yes.
Future meetup?
Yes. So thank you all for coming and for joining me and listening to me on my journey. It was a pleasure talking about it. And for those who are interested, sign up for the South Shore Filmmakers Meetup. Happens second Wednesday of every month here at the, what's the name of the station? HCAM. And so you can find out more information on Facebook and where else can you find more information? On
Meetup.com.
Meetup.com. So if you want, so you should join this because a lot of great filmmakers. I think in the next couple of months we have Mike Messier coming to talk. Who is another local writer, filmmaker. So you don't want to miss any of these folks because you can hear some great stories, and I hope my stories were just as fun and inspiring, hopefully, and thank you again.
Thank you, Chris.